Attention shoppers, clean up on aisle 14. Clean up on aisle 14. Someone dropped a jar of pickles. Pickles. Kosher pickles.
Beatboxing at a big box store. Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
A red minivan has the lights on in the parking lot.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Geico.
The Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you, as I love to do, every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio in over 250 markets across the United States of America. And, of course, on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM style, Channel 80. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Number to call up, as always, is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. ESPN jam-packed show coming your way today. Get into a potpourri of issues. Obviously, the NFL playoffs, week 2 of the NFL playoffs is about to unfold. New England and Tennessee, Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, Atlanta at Philadelphia, and, of course, New Orleans heading to Minnesota to place the Vikings. We'll get into all of that stuff, whether or not, if you had an option to pick, what option would it be? Nick Saban, whether it's the Giants, the Indianapolis Colts, or the Detroit Lions, do you pick a coach to coach one of those franchises, or do you just give the job to Nick Saban and make sure everybody's working under him? Which direction would you choose to go in if indeed you had the choice? Those are all subjects that both subjects that we'll broach today. But there's a couple of things on my mind. First things first. The greatness of Kevin Durant. Boy, do I wish this man was a New York Knick. My heart would be so beautiful. Not so much L.A. I like their young crop of guys. When I think of Kevin Durant, I think about guys in L.A. When in L.A., I want a personality. In New York, I just want results. I don't give a damn if you're as boring as rain. I don't care. As long as you could play and you could get it done, that's all I care about in New York City. In L.A., I want showtime. I want pizzazz. I want a showman. I want a box office attraction. Not to say that he's not, but when you look at somebody like a LeBron James, it's a little bit different. When you look at the personality that comes with Laker Nation and what have you, it requires just a little bit different from what New York or New Yorkers require. That would just be me. But Kevin Durant, 25 points away from becoming the second youngest player in NBA history to reach 20,000 points for his career. Number 1 is LeBron James on that list, obviously. Number 2 is now Kevin Durant, who dropped 25 points in the first half. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to throw out some of these numbers because I have been on the record saying that I think Kevin Durant has an opportunity. Without question, I think he'll end up top 10 all time. I think he has a chance to be top 5 all time. I really, really do. Now, when we talk about my 5, I'm going by position per se. My top 5 would be Magic, MJ, LeBron, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That would be my top 5. But you see, that's different positions. That's not just naming players. I got news for you. Kevin Durant keeps on this base. I got to think about Kevin Durant and how I would put him on this team. And who's the one guy that I might take off? I might take off Magic. I know it might be sacrilegious to say that because Magic Johnson is the greatest point guard ever. He's a 5-time champion. He galvanized the troops. He was the ultimate leader, which makes him, in the eyes of many, the greatest Laker of all time. For me, as great as Magic Johnson was as a leader and a winner, naturally born winner, his talent and skill level wasn't comparable to this brother. Kevin Durant is 6'11", y'all. He's got a 7'6" wingspan. He got a handle like a guard. He's a career 88% shooter from the free throw line. Ladies and gentlemen, the man hasn't shot less than 50% from the field in the last 5 years. He's a career 48.9% shooter, 38% from three-point range, 88% from the free throw line. He averages 27.2 points for his career. For his career. And the only reason, while the numbers are down by 2 points from his time in Seattle and OKC to the Golden State Warriors, is because he took 2 less shots per game. And for those of you wondering as to whether or not he shows up come playoff time, in the playoffs, although his percentage dropped by a couple of points in terms of shooting percentage, the dude is a career 28.8 point per game scorer in the playoffs. And over his last 6 times he's been in the postseason, he's averaged over 28 points. 28.6, 28.5, 38, 29.6, 28.4, 28.5. In case you're forgetting, he's the reigning NBA Finals MVP, averaging 35 a game on better than 53% shooting. The brother's on another level. Now, I've been on the record stating that his move to Golden State was the weakest move that I've ever seen by a superstar. I have not changed my mind. I still feel that way. But don't get it twisted. That's all I feel. It doesn't take anything away from his greatness as a player. What a superstar he is, and how I widely consider him to be the second best player on the planet. And I think that if he shows up during these NBA Finals, he'll actually eclipse LeBron. If he outplays LeBron again and he wins another NBA Finals MVP and another championship, I think it's time to say it's the Kevin Durant era. Ain't gonna be no more of this King James stuff. I'm sorry. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. Another item I wanted to get into was that the Fritz Pollard Alliance is calling for an investigation into the Oakland Raiders hiring of John Gruden as its coach. They want an investigation because of the fact that the Rooney Rule may have been violated. Because the Rooney Rule, as you all know, essentially is a rule implemented to ensure that minorities will get interviews for jobs in the National Football League. And obviously the Raiders bypassed that, and Mark Davis, the owner for the Oakland Raiders, put his foot in his mouth because he basically conceded that John Gruden and he had reached a deal prior to the season's ending. So while John Gruden was in the booth working on Monday Night Football, according to Mark Davis, he had already agreed to become the next head coach for the Oakland Raiders. Even though we have John Gruden on tape, if Mark Davis is to be believed, apparently lying through his teeth about having a job. But that's neither here nor there. An investigation is what's being called for by the Fritz Pollard Alliance, led by John Wooten, the chairman for the Fritz Pollard Alliance, obviously present and in association with the NFL to improve minority relations and things pertaining to opportunities for minorities. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I am a black man hosting this national radio show. And I will sit here on this nationally syndicated radio show and tell you all, as a black man, this call for an investigation has zero merit. There is no reason for it to take place. The Oakland Raiders have John Gruden as their coach. And folks, I hate to break it to you, but the investigation is not warranted. Do you know why? John Wooten was on the record talking about how the Raiders didn't violate the policy because they did interview minority candidates. And on top of it all, no team is compelled to inform the league of candidates that were interviewed that aren't associated with the league. Even though that is wrong because ESPN is associated with the NFL because we're in partnership with the NFL. And as the voice of Monday Night Football, that means John Gruden was associated with the NFL. Even though that's true. Fritz Pollard Alliance is already on the record saying that there was no need. There was no problem with the hiring process. So a week later, you've changed your mind? Tough cookies. And oh, by the way, Reggie McKenzie is an African-American who happens to be the general manager of the Oakland Raiders. Why in the hell did you not go to your boss, Mark Davis, and say, before we announce that John Gruden is the coach, let me interview these minority candidates, which, by the way, Reggie McKenzie told the Fritz Pollard Alliance and others that he had actually done, but also bring them out in a public forum so everyone could know who they are. Why did you not do that? I respect John Wooten. I respect Reggie McKenzie and what he has accomplished in his career. In this particular sequence, as it strictly and solely pertains to the hiring of John Gruden by the Oakland Raiders, the ball was dropped. And it was dropped by two black men. That is not the NFL's problem. And now it's not even the Oakland Raiders' problem. It would happen to be ours as a community. Because for a moment, we forgot what the spirit of the Rooney Rule was all about. I am younger than Reggie McKenzie. I am younger than John Wooten. Without question, I'm not more knowledgeable, and I certainly haven't made their sacrifices. I respect both men, and in no way am I trying to castigate them. I'm simply pointing out a fact. They dropped the ball on this. That's their problem. That's our problem as a community. It is not the NFL problem. It is not the Oakland Raiders problem. And it certainly shouldn't be John Gruden's problem. It absolutely should not be his problem. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. The number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Your calls and more coming up in a minute. You are listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man?
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
The number to call up as always is 888-729-3776. That's 888-SAY-ESPN. Listen, we got a lot of stuff to get into, some NBA action, the way Kevin Durant looked last night, the way he looks, and what your expectations are for this season, Cleveland and their struggles. Who's your surprise in the NBA this season? Who's your biggest disappointment? In a little while, I'm going to tell you who my biggest disappointment is in the NBA thus far. Who my biggest disappointment is in the NBA thus far. And I'm not playing. I'll be getting into all of that. Plus, I'll be getting into Mike Mitchell and his damn comments. I'm a Steelers fan. How could you open your mouth about Tom Brady and the New England Patriots like that? I mean, what are you thinking? Oh, I can't wait to touch on that subject as well. But I ended the segment. First segment one, talking about the Rooney Rule. Ladies and gentlemen, understand something. We live in a mosaic. Sometimes it's absolutely positively gorgeous, particularly when you compare it to the rest of the world. But in the United States of America, you have a lot of people that are sitting there talking about, what the hell are you worried about what's going on in the rest of the world first? Have you not looked at what's going on in our country? You got some people that's for building a wall, some people that are against it. But universally, practically, almost everybody is asking $18 billion on a wall. You know how much $18 billion could do to resolve some of the problems that exist right here in the United States of America? These are the kind of things that people talk about. And as it pertains to the Rooney Rule, where you're talking about the National Football League, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on it, but it's important to bring up. It's important to articulate. See, this is one of those examples that I want to use to emphasize and to illuminate how fair-minded I am. I don't care that a black candidate doesn't have the Oakland Raiders job. I think it's perfectly understandable why the Raiders picked John Gruden. John Gruden is synonymous with Raider Nation. Those people love him. And if you're the Oakland Raiders and you have an opportunity to give the fans what they want to see, especially when it comes to coaching, because you damn sure can't seem to do it on the field, why not hire John Gruden? Even if it did cost you $100 million. I understand. There's no issue with a minority not getting that job. The problem is when the rule is clearly in place that minority candidates have to be interviewed. Yes, you have to interview them. No, you do not have an obligation to showcase them. John Wooten of the Fritz Pollard Alliance was right when he said that last week. Reggie McKenzie didn't violate any rules. But if you're John Wooten, almost 80 years of age, as knowledgeable and as seasoned as you are, you're gonna know about crawling and walking 1,000 times better than me. So if the man interviews 2 minority candidates, what in God's name makes you think minority candidates are benefited by them being interviewed but nobody knowing about the damn interview? What purpose does that serve? I'm looking at my producers, Nuno and Jonathan and Kat. Am I wrong? What purpose does it serve if you haven't let everybody know who the damn candidate is? How does that help the minority candidate? How does it help? And if you're Reggie McKenzie, who's an African-American executive in the National Football League, you're a general manager, for Christ's sakes. How do you not know that we need to see that man, whoever you interviewed, walking out in front of the camera with the world knowing you interviewed him for the job? How do you not know the benefit of that? How do you not know? Now, I'm in Atlanta the other day, Tuesday to be exact. National championship game aftermath. And I had the distinct pleasure of speaking to Mr. David Dickey, who runs a radio station there in Atlanta, Georgia. And to hear this man speak so fervently, so enthusiastic and optimistically about sports talk radio and about the various communities that exist within the Atlanta area, and especially urban areas throughout Atlanta, minority communities throughout Atlanta, you got something special. This man is coming. I know a winner when I see one. This man is special. And you're talking about an individual that's paying attention to dollars and where they're emanating from in regards to all communities. You're also talking and listening to him talk about what works. What are the kind of things that people want to hear? What do they want to see? And how attaching something that's visible, that's almost tangible, that you can reach out and touch and you feel like you've got a personal relationship with it, how it matters. Reggie McKenzie might not have gotten the general manager's job that way, but he certainly could have facilitated that kind of opportunity happening for others. If John Gruden, simple question, ladies and gentlemen, because you might be asking, Stephen A., where's he going with this? Simple question. If John Gruden had not been on Monday Night Football all of these years, would the Oakland Raiders have spent $100 million to get him? Of course not. You were willing to pay that kind of money because John Gruden was synonymous with football. And his football acumen and his football brilliance was something that you couldn't escape, because every Monday night throughout every NFL season since, 2009, you heard this man's voice. You saw his face. And the relevancy of it is what propelled him to this height. Doc Rivers became a champion for the coach of the Boston Celtics. How he get the damn job? Would it have had something to do with the tremendous work he did as a broadcaster on ABC prior to that? Jeff Van Gundy has been candidate for numerous jobs. You think him working on ESPN ABC has something to do with that? John Lynch is the general manager for the San Francisco 49ers. You think him being in a booth calling NFL games might have had something to do with that? Alex Rodriguez, with his steroid cheating self, if you listen to the reports, the Mitchell Report and others. This dude is now somebody being pursued. Fox loves him. I have no doubt this network loves him. Everybody loves Alex Rodriguez now. Why? Because he did a good job on Fox's pregame and postgame MLB show. What the hell you think? Everybody wants him because he's dating J-Lo? Of course not. Popularity matters. Charisma matters. And when the combination of both is something that people perceive you as having, it elevates your stock, which increases the possibility of you landing a job. How in God's name could Reggie McKenzie not know that? How did that happen? But let me quiet down, because God forbid that Stephen A's content gets lost in the shuffle because I'm a bit loud. Let me try this again. How could Reggie McKenzie not know that? How could Reggie McKenzie not know that? Is that better? I hope so.
Guess what? You're in the middle of the Stephen A. Smith Show podcast.
Damn it, I mean it! Let me tell you, and I'll take phone calls on Durant, on Gruden, on a few things, but let me tell you what my biggest disappointment of the NBA season has been. I can get into a lot of things because the biggest surprise has been the Boston Celtics. I didn't expect that. The Miami Heat were my sleeper. They're not disappointing me right now. And then, of course, not only that, the other thing to consider is my biggest disappointment. Ladies and gentlemen, I spoke about that today on my television show, First Take, on ESPN. It airs every weekday from 10 a.m. to noon. It's live. It is not taped. I got a few things on my mind about this team. But before I tell you and get into really why, I wanted you to hear what I said on national TV this morning. Kat, take it away.
The damn Washington Wizards, I'm calling you out. I'm so sick of these people. You know, the Washington Wizards, John Wall had 35 and 11 last night. What the hell are you doing losing to the Utah Jazz without Rudy Gobert? How did that happen? This is a team, Max Kellerman. Do you know what the Washington Wizards record is against sub 500 teams? They're 11 and 10. 11 and 10 against sub 500 teams.
Ain't gonna get it done.
You know, let me tell you something right now. And you know why that is? You want me to? Let me tell y'all why that is. Because if you notice, they play Cleveland tough. They play a lot of these teams tough. They got a better than 500 record against better than 500 teams, Max. Do you know why they have the record that they have against sub 500 teams? Because you play up to your competition, you play down to your competition. Right. You know what that means, Max? You think you have arrived. What the hell has the Washington Wizards done to think they have arrived? Listen, I was in Atlanta to see them. Got nothing but love for the brothers. I root for them. I picked them to go to the conference finals last year. I was hoping they would do something this year. Y'all right now are looking like straight garbage. Bradley Beal, what the hell was that play last night? Where's that play? Do we have that play on film? I wish we had it because we needed to show how this dude goes up for a jump shot, thinks it's going to get blocked, and basically throws it to himself. How the hell has that happened? You're Bradley Beal. And oh, by the way, this is the guy that I walked up to in Atlanta, and I'm thinking all-star, all-star, all-star. And then I watched the next few games, and some of my peeps reminds me, hey, he ain't clutch. So I took the liberty of going to the research department. Let me look at Bradley Beal here. Bradley Beal clutch stats, 2.8 points, 29th in the league, Max. 30.2% shooting, 21.1% from three-point range. He's a shooter. And 21%. Okay, and 67% a shooter. 67% from the free throw line. Let me tell you something. Him and John Wall are big time. Y'all ain't playing like it when it counts. Not when it counts. Scott Brooks, you're the main culprit. And I love Scott Brooks. Damn good coach. Damn it. I want greatness. Not good. Greatness. Could you give Could you call some plays for Otto Porter, who's your best shooter, shoot 45% from three-point range? Could you call some plays for Otto Porter? Oubre, could you get him more involved?
Otto Porter is a bad guy, but you know what? He's got to be your fourth best player.
Last point, Max. Bradley Beal and John Wall, I'm going to put it on Front Street. Yeah. There's something about their relationship that ain't right. I could just see it.
Of course.
Get it together, Wizards. Get it together. You're too good for this.
I'm a bit calmer now. But make no mistake, I meant every single damn word that I said. Ladies and gentlemen, if the playoffs were to begin today, do you understand what is transpiring? The Washington Wizards right now are a half game away from being the 6th or the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Bradley Beal is in the midst of a $138 million contract extension. John Wall just re-upped for $170 million. All right? $170 million. In 2019, now he's making $18 million this year. He's making $19 million next year. Ladies and gentlemen, in 2019, 2020, John Wall is on the books to make $37.8 million. In 2020, 2021, John Wall will make $40.8 million. And then that season after that, he's at $43.8 million. 43.8. Ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Wizards have not been in the conference finals since 1979. I was 12. 12. I just turned 50. John Wall and Bradley Beal weren't even born yet. How in the hell are you doing this? The Washington Wizards lost to the Utah Jazz by 47 points this year. The Washington Wizards, brace yourself, are you sitting down for this? Lost to the Brooklyn Nets by 35 this year. What the hell is going on? What is that? Otto Porter's the best shooter on the team. Scott Brooks ain't calling his number. We starting to see why Scott Brooks is going from Oklahoma City. I'm not saying he's not a good coach because I know he can coach. But he panicked in Game 7 of the conference semifinals last year. I don't know what the hell he's doing this year. I don't understand it. Kelly Oubre, who only got 1 minute in a Game 7 when you know you needed his defense and youthful legs. I don't know what's going on. I had to watch the Wizards going to the conference finals. This year, I said, let them show me something. I'm not satisfied. Enough's enough. John Wall and Bradley Beal make up one of the best backcourts in the league. They don't look like they're on the same page. Little comments where they throwing salt on each other about guys not being together or thinking about their stats instead of trying to win and all of this other stuff. Just look at them on the court. Just look at them. Something's missing. Scott Brooks, Tommy Shepard, Ernie Grunfeld, figure it out. Figure it out. There's no excuse for this. None. Absolutely none. When you play up to your competition, but down to other competition, you know what that shows me? You think you've arrived. What the hell are you, when the hell did you think you arrived? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, can somebody help me out? Was there a parade down Pennsylvania Avenue somewhere that I didn't know about other than when the president is inaugural, you know, when it was inaugurated? Is there something I missed? Is there something that I missed? Did the Washington Wizards suddenly become the Washington Capitals? Is there something I missed? Come on, man. Come on. 888-729-3776. 888-SAY-ESPN. They got to do better. I tell you who is doing better, them damn Miami Heat. I'm telling you something right now. I believe in this team. They got guts. They got moxie. They ain't scared of nothing. They coming. I think they got a chance to knock off one of the top 2 seeds in the Eastern Conference. Deion Waiters comes back healthy. He's healthy. He stays healthy. I think they got a chance. I really do. And I'm a Josh Richardson fan. I'm here to tell you. I truly am. That brother brings it on both ends of the floor. Only averaging 12.7 points a game, but this boy gets up in you. He defends, and he's an energizer bunny. I love it. They got a lot of heart in Miami. Washington Wizards need to do something. I ain't paying attention to Toronto because of DeRozan. I don't care how great DeRozan and those guys are. LeBron is their kryptonite. They'd run into LeBron and they'd fold. Period. Dwayne Case is one of the best coaches in the NBA, but they'd run into LeBron and they'd fold. It's just that simple. Max Kellerman talked about how his biggest disappointment was OKC. Yeah, it's OKC, but at the same time, it's going to take time to figure that out when you got a three-headed monster and you got to work around everything else. I understand that. I totally get that. So that's something to consider and pay attention to. Houston, Harden, and CP3 got to get on the floor together for some significant chunks of time if they're really going to develop the chemistry needed. You know, when Harden ain't there, Chris Paul goes berserk. When Chris Paul ain't there, Harden goes berserk. But you got to do it together if you're going to beat Golden State. And Steph Curry, listen, they can talk about hurt all they want to. Kevin Durant sits out 3 games. Klay Thompson rests last night. Steph Curry misses a few games. You know what Golden State's doing? They resting their players. They're just not being as obvious with it as they were last year, which means they're going to be ready for the pro season. They might not lose a game. Keep messing with them. Keep messing with them. And San Antonio's quietly winning. So we got to pay attention to them as well. But somebody needs to get it together.
Even more of Stephen A.
Him of all people.
For around-the-clock access to the man,
I'm Stephen A.
You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at Stephen A. Smith and on Facebook at Stephen A.
By the way, just for the record, let me tell y'all something. This kid, Mike Mitchell, for the Pittsburgh Steelers, talking about they're going to beat the Patriots. How do you just look past the Jacksonville Jaguars? How do you do that? How do you look past the Jacksonville Jaguars? Last October 8th, they spanked you 30-9. 30-9. I don't know what to be more concerned about if I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Mike Mitchell being stupid enough to look past the Jacksonville Jaguars talking about how they beat the Patriots. Because it's a double whammy. First of all, you got to get past Jacksonville, which ain't a gimme. And secondly, if you pull that off, Tom Brady and them, because they're going through a bye week as far as I'm concerned, going up against the Tennessee Titans. The way I look at it, Tom Brady and Gronk and the crew will be waiting. That is the deal. That's how I view it. That's how I look at it. It's a stupid comment on his part. Not calling him stupid. And I know he can play. It's just not a smart comment. Patriots have been spanking the Steelers for years now. Who the hell are you to talk about the Patriots? Oh, I know we beat. I guarantee you we beat them. Really? Can you speak for the other 10 guys on defense? Oh, by the way, and when you bypassing, you're willing to disrespect Jacksonville by bypassing them, knowing that their defense is elite. Isn't it interesting that Mike Mitchell doesn't have to go against them? He doesn't have to go against that defense. He gets to talk junk because he's chasing Blake Bortles. It's the Steelers offense that got to go against them. And oh, by the way, if you're the Steelers offense, how are you feeling about the fact that your star quarterback is like this? They're the toughest defense I've ever gone against. I mean, why don't you just come out and just say it, Ben? I don't know if I can beat them. Well, that's refreshing. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Marcus in D.C., you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Thank you for taking my call, Stephen A. I just wanted to talk about the Wizards, and I just had to look at this at a different perspective because it was just a few years ago we had Nick Young, Jordan Crawford, JaVale McGee, Andre Blatche. I can't really say that this Wizards team is a disappointment because, as you said, they compete hard against the best teams, Celtics, Rockets, Cavaliers.
And they wet the bed against mediocre teams.
Right, as well. But I can't say that they are a disappointment yet because once we get to the playoffs, I believe that, you know what I'm saying, they will play their hardest and we'll be able to see them, you know, because everything's going to be on the line. So I can't really say this is a disappointment because
So you're one of those guys that's cool with the fact that they're going to go to the semifinals and go home, or go in the first round and go home. You're fine with that? I mean, just say it. Just say it, Marcus. Just say it. Just say that when they go to the playoffs as a 6th or 7th seed and they go home in the first round, you ain't gonna have no problem with it. Why don't you just say it?
Because they can beat every team probably except for the Cavaliers. So I don't see that to be the case. When they go to the playoffs, I just believe that, they can compete with everybody except probably the Cavs. So it's not really a disappointment. We just have to wait and see, because when it comes down to it, when it's prime time, I just feel like they're going to show up. So we can't call them a disappointment until we see. It's way too early. Way too early in the season.
All right, goodbye. You're annoying me. You're one of them soft fans with minimal expectations, man. You know what I'm saying? They've been to the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years. When are you going to take the next step? He bringing up Nick Young, Swaggy P, when he was in D.C. Really? Come on. Moving on. CB in Pasadena. No rapping, no rhyming. Just answer the questions and make your point. Go ahead.
To reiterate your point earlier, the Washington Wizards, I know they're struggling, but I can remember, when they were the Washington Bullets, which was controversial with that name. They had Kevin Greavy, Bobby Dandridge, and Wes Unseld. They had a good squad, and I believe they played the Seattle Supersonics with Gus Williams and Dennis Johnson. But what I wanted to say, Stephen, also Kevin Durant, he is interplanetary and utterly electric. But you know what? This is my biggest point, Stephen A. I done unpacked my bag, talking to you probably about 10 days ago, for going to Las Vegas. But now, for Vegas, now my beloved Raiders are going to touchdown. And I packed my bags back up for a valuable road trip. I know it's a gray area between the Rooney Rule and John Gruden, but the silver and black, I think we have no problem with it. But we got a lot of things we got to clean up. We got gap integrity on defense for our linebackers. Our doggone secondary is getting toasted like Elvin the Toast Patterson. You might as well call us toast. And then our offense, I can't blame everything on Derek Carr because there was some drop passes this year. And then we didn't have Janikowski. So maybe Gruden can, corral that locker room and get these boys back on track. What do you think?
Well, listen, I think that Gruden better get them on track. You signed for $100 million, shouldn't you? I want Gruden to make sure that he delivers the goods and delivers a Super Bowl championship within the next 4 years. John Gruden's being paid more than Bill Belichick. John Gruden's got a $100 million guaranteed deal with incentives that can pump it over 120. John Gruden is being paid more than the highest paid guaranteed player in the National Football League, because John Gruden has charisma. John Gruden has a history with Raider Nation. John Gruden can get away with this despite the fact that he hasn't coached since 2008. And the 6 years that he coached from 2008 or 2002 rather to 2008, the man went 45-51 with only 2 playoff appearances and 0 victories. So you know what that means? That means essentially that the last time that we're talking about here, let's put this in its proper perspective, CB. The last time that the Los Angeles Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders rather, won, or John Gruden won a playoff game, really, of consequence. I shouldn't say a playoff game because he did go to Tampa. Won the Super Bowl in 2002. Outside of that, what are we looking at here? You tell me.
Well, it's going to be a work in progress. They haven't won since Hector was a pup in the horse and buggy days. I know that. But, we have loyal fans, the Black Hole and the Raider Nation. They're going to build a beautiful stadium out there in Las Vegas.
That's true. But John Gruden has not won a playoff game since 2002.
Yeah, and I know you always reiterate on the Dallas, with Jarrett and whatnot. They ain't won nothing either. They haven't won. They're a franchise.
We know how I feel about the Cowboys. We know how I feel about the Cowboys. You don't need to go there.
That's just a sample of what you'll hear on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Weekdays at 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.